Mulesoft is not a coding language. It's a tool like where you can drag and drop the connectors, and it's a very easy to learn, and it's very easy to get a job as well. Okay, so just I have explained what is a Mulesoft and what is the integration and how the communication happening in a ancient days. Okay, so are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So I'm explaining you the point-to-point communication. What is it exactly? So you can see site A and site B. So if site A wants to communicate with the site B, it should happen with a single language. It means if the target system is in XML, it should send the request in a XML format. If it is a JSON, it should send the format or the request in a JSON format. Then only the site B can understand and it will give the response back. So what the request is, and it will understand and it will gives back the response. Okay, and it's a only point-to-point communication, and it's a very cost effective. So if this wants to communicate, if this wants to request and response format, it's very cost effective. And then the integration got introduced. So what this integration is doing, so it is understanding the input request, in what format or what language we are getting the input, and it will convert or it will do the data transformation in the middleware in the integration, and it will send to the target. And in the same way, once we are receiving the response, so the target, if you are sending a XML, it will give you the response back in a XML. But input client or input system that requires in a JSON. So then again it will convert the response back to the JSON and it will send back to the user. Okay, so now here you can see the below one. Here it got introduced in the Mule is the API led connectivity. So how it's going to happen in a real time scenario. Okay, so you see here user experience API, process API, and Mulesoft system API. Okay, so if you are designing your APIs in this way, that can be reusable in a future by your organization or any other organization. Okay, so let's say you can see here this is a system through web browser you are sending a request. Here through mobile you are sending a request to the experience API. So what it will do, it will take that input request and it will send to the process API. So what is this process API? So the user experience API is a UI. So UI in the sense user interface that you are seeing in your mobile app or in your web browser, the format, the input request format, or the how you are filling up a application, or how you see the input request that you are sending as a query parameter, as a URI parameter or input body. So whatever the request you are sending, that it will take by the experience API and it will pass on to the process API. So what is this process API? So the entire business logic that you are going to have in your process API. Okay, so now here you can see the request from E1 is sending to P1 and then system. Then again to the target, it may be a target systems, maybe a databases or SAP or file system or maybe a SFDC, Salesforce. Okay, so the request is passing on to the next layer, that is the process API, then it to the system API. Then once the request is received here, then it sends back to the user. So here you can use any kind of medium that you want to hit it. You can send it. It will receive the request. Then it will sends back to the user. So clear so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's next? So after this Mule API-led connectivity, so if you are using this APIs, so if you are developing this API, let's say you have implemented this business logic. So in the business logic, you have implemented a process API. That's a P1. Okay. So this P1, the kind of design you done in similar way, one more application needs it. Okay. Then simply they can access or they can use this API. So how that can be happen? So let's say we have, let's say a simple example, we have a Google Map. Okay, so in the Google Map, there is a API in the backend. Okay, so everyone wants to use that API, and if that is a licensed one, if that is a secured one, how we can use that? Okay, so you have to configure those credentials for the particular client. Let's say Raji using the Google API, also Rashikar also using the Google API. So how you come to know the request is coming from Raji and also the request is coming from Rashikar? Okay, so we can identify through the contract or account being that is assigned to the each user. Okay, so each user we are going to assign a different credentials so that we can easily understand, yes, this is coming from so and so person and this is also coming from so and so person. Okay, so if you are designing the API in your uh, Anypoint platform, so I'll tell you the applications what that are using. So if you are designing a API and if that want to use other applications or other accounts, so that can be accessible through proxy or a API URL. Okay, so what is the main purpose of designing this API led architecture or this connectivity is to reusable. So these APIs can be reusable further. So the functionality of this API may be similar to the other applications that may be used or that may be useful for the other applications as well. Okay. So now in the bottom you can see the clear picture or clear diagram of this APIs, how it's working. Okay. So you can see here experience APIs, process APIs, and system APIs. Okay, and the target systems that you can connect or you can communicate or different systems, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Workday, Salesforce, whatever. So irrespective, so the Mule can communicate. So in this Mule we have earlier Mulesoft 3.x version, and now we are using, at present we are using Mulesoft 4.40. Okay, so earlier in a Mule 3 there are limited connectors. Okay. Now we can see there are very huge connectors, and every quarter or every month they are introducing new connectors to connect to the different end systems. So recently they have introduced Docker and the other DevOps tools to connect it, to connect to that end systems and to communicate. Okay, so every quarter it's upgrading itself and it's introducing a new version of the Mulesoft. And as I mentioned, if you search in the Google, you can see the latest version is Mulesoft is 4.4.0. Okay, and along with this Mulesoft Studio, we have to. So I'll tell you what are the applications are required for the Mulesoft. Let me go in the bottom. So we need Anypoint Studio. Okay, so Anypoint Studio is a designer where we are implementing our actual implementation or our actual logic or business logic. Okay, so we have to download this from Google. Okay, so this is the main IDE. This one you can see here. So this is the Anypoint Studio. Okay, so you can download this from Google. So I'll tell you how you can download it. Simply uh, type in a Google Anypoint Studio download. Okay, so it will take you to the Mulesoft page. There you can see an option called download, and there you have to give, if you are using a Mac, you have to give Mac, or if you are using a Windows, so give Windows, and it will give you the zip file. So if you are downloading that into your local, so it will give you a zip file. You have to unzip it in your local folders as where you are having C or D drive. After immediate your drive, you have to give that. So I'll show you here how. I did it in my system. Okay, so if you are doing in a folder by folder inside of it, so it will not work. Okay, so it will give you an error. So you can see in my downloads. Sorry, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, now only I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, sorry. So here you can see Anypoint Studio. So after you have to unzip it after day drive. So you can see under day drive, I have unzipped it. So here you can see Anypoint Studio 7.13.0. Then here you can see Anypoint Studio, the application. Okay. So if you click on this Anypoint Studio, it will give you this window. So before this, it will ask you for the workspace. So what is that workspace? So workspace is where you are going to save your all applications in a folder. Okay. So if I go there, so if I right click on it and if I go the properties, it will give you. So what are the available applications or what are the applications you have developed in Anypan Studio that can be visible or that can be saved in a folder. Okay. So this is completely a graphical representation. So here you can see uh, properties. So here you can see my location is C users, Anypan Studio, Investor Workspace, sample panel. So this is my workspace where all my applications are going to save here. Okay, so it will open. So here you can see this is the canvas. So this is my workspace. Okay, so here you can see my applications that are developed in the studio: sample, test, test local, and test ramel. So these are all there. Okay, so it will be there in a folder wise. Okay, you can see settings, exchange doc, src. So src source is the main one where you are going to have all your uh, xml files. So mule is going to be an xml file, so you can say xml document. And the resources, if you have any resources property file, that can you have here. So I'll tell you the in the further classes how we are going to do this. So here you can see the connectors. We are going to drag and drop from here. So the right hand side you are seeing, right, mule palette. So here you are going to drag and drop your connectors, and here left hand side you can see the package explorer, the application names, and if you're creating an application, what are the inbuilt or by default things you are getting. Okay, so you can see that here. And this bottom one, you can see the character configurations. If you click on it, you will get it. And if you're deploying this in a local, you can see the logs here. And if you're facing any errors, you can get that in the problems. And if you're debugging your application, debugging in the sense, if you want to go a connector level, connector by connector, and if you want to see the message or payload what you are getting, so that you can see in a mule debugger. Okay, so here in a Mulesoft terminology, we'll use message as a payload. Okay, so what is a payload? Payload is nothing but a message that you are receiving from an input request. Okay, so that may be a anything, any kind of thing. Okay, So we'll see that how we are getting and how it's processing further. Okay, so this is completely Anypoint Studio. Okay, so you can see the version of it. Okay, Anypoint Studio, what is its version? So you can see this version is 7.13 and this runtime version is runtime Mule server is 4.4.0. It means we have, once you are downloading Anypoint Studio, along with it we are getting a Mule runtime version. That is, now you can see for this Studio version 7.13 you are getting 4.4.0. So if you want to use a lower version, that can be installed. So if you are downloading a Studio, by default you will get this Mule server or runtime version. So what is the purpose of it? You can deploy your application locally here in a Studio. Okay. So in other applications, how developers are doing a unit testing. So in similar way, you can do as a developer, we can do a unit testing, you know, Studio itself by deploying our application locally. So how you can deploy your application? So if you right click once you are done with your development and if there is no errors, you can see run project sample or debug project sample. So run project sample, it's directly deploy. So debug, if you are adding any debugger point, you can do this by connector by connector. So once you get the input request from the input client or any other application, you can move further by connector. Okay. So this is all about the studio, how you are doing, what are the available options, and what are the other things required to learn Mulesoft. Okay. So Anypoint Studio, we can download that from Google. Okay. So you need Java, that should be our latest version. Okay. And Maven. So Maven, we can see these two in a newer version. So in a earlier studio versions, we will not get the Java and Maven versions. So now we are getting this embedded. You can see here JDK embedded. So JRE system library embedded. So along with the studio, we are getting it now. But sometimes the dependencies that are not downloaded with the version that you have here. Okay. So you have to install your JDK and Maven and you have to give environment variables. So that's a very common one, how you can set up environment variables. So you guys know that how to set up environment variables?
Yeah, yes.
Rashikar, you? Rashikar, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So if you click on it, this PC properties, you can see the environment variables. So you have to add your Java path, Maven path, and you have to give two variables, that is user variables, that is m2 underscore home and Java home. So you have to do that for this Java setup. Okay. Maven, for these two Java and Maven, so setup environment variables. Okay. So after this, you need Anypoint platform access. So this Anypoint platform is a 30 days trial version. You can get it. Okay. So if you uh, type in a Google Anypoint platform access, you can get that. If you have to sign up for that, so it's a 30 days validity. Then you can use for 30 days. So what is the purpose of this Anypoint platform? Okay, so I'll show you that. So Anypoint platform is to deploy our applications. So you are doing unit testing in a studio by doing a local testing. So once you have done it, so you have to further deploy your applications into a different environments. So that is a dev, stage, production, or sometimes that may be a dev, test, stage, or production. Okay. So in similar way, we can use that platform as a on-premise or cloud hub. So what is on-premise or cloud hub? So on-premise is local servers that we are going to have in a local, our local admin guys going to maintain those servers, and cloud hub. So when you are buying your license with a Mulesoft, you can buy this cloud hub space. So how much you want, so you can download that and you can deploy our applications in a cloud hub. Okay. So after this Maven, you need Anypoint Platform access. Okay. So this much is needed now for your smooth process. So to learn MuleSoft or to develop a MuleSoft application and deploy in a runtime manager or anytime platform, so you need these four applications. Okay, Independent Studio that you can download from Google. Okay, and Java, Maven, Independent Platform. Okay, so as I mentioned, you have to download this from all from this three from Google, and you have to install it. And platform, you have to sign up, and it will be a 30 days trial version. So after that, you have to sign up again with a different username. So then it we can extend again for 30 days. Okay. So any doubts or questions so far, Raji?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. So now we'll see how the sample application that we can develop, in a pan platform. Okay.
Naveen, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Yeah.
So I want to create a new application. So how we can do that? Okay. So here you can see the option called file. Okay. So here, file, new mule project. Okay. So if you select this, it will give you a window to select the application name and the version. Okay. So here you can see the project name. So what is the project name you want to give? So give here. So everything everything you have to naming convention and the indentation. Okay. So here what I am doing, so my existing applications also you can see everything in a small letters, and if any other word is starting, that going with a hyphen. Okay. So this is a standard way of maintaining the application names. Okay. So now I want to give my name, so the project name. So this is So before you are starting your application in a real time, so that can be given by the client. Okay, so when you are doing in a requirements gathering session, so you will get what is the application about and what is the application name. Okay, so if not, in a further sessions or in your communication, you can ask your client, so what is the application name or project name that you are going to have it. Okay, so now I am giving test hyphen. So I want to give August. Okay, so test I'm giving August. So I'm taking the runtime version as Mulesoft 4.4.0. So I don't have any other options. So if I have any other runtime versions, I can have an option to select which runtime server or version I need it. So this is a server I told you inbuilt that can be used to deploy locally. Okay, so simply I'm finishing now. So I'll tell you what are these options. Import a published API, import RAML from a local file, or download RAML from Design Center. So I'll tell you in a further session. So now we are doing a simple application. So I'm giving test August. So just observe what are the things happening in a studio in the backend once I click on the finish. Okay. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. Give me a minute. Huh?
Okay.
So you can see it got created and it got opened a XML file with a test August. So your application name is a test August. The main flow of this application also created with a .xml. So in this Mulesoft, everything in the backend is a XML. So if you see this configuration XML, okay. So in the backend is everything in a XML. So if I want to drag and drop any application, so you can see here there is no connector now. Once I drag and drop, how the XML comes here, you can see. So just I'm drag and dropping one HTTP listener. Okay. So now you can see in the configuration XML how it pop up. Now you can see HTTP listener, doc name, doc ID. So this doc ID is generated then and there once you drag and drop the connector. Okay. So from the right hand side, based on your requirement and based on the connector availability, you can drag and drop and you can connect further. Okay, so what is this source and what is this process, how the message structure, mule message structure, and how it will go, will explain you further. But how the application got generated, so you can see the src main mule. So and also you can see the flows. So here you are going to have all your flows, means configuration xmls, this one's here under this folder. So what is src main java? So if you are using any scripting language, Java, Python, Ruby, or any skill script, so that can be come here. So why we are using or why you are going for that? So this MuleSoft doesn't require the coding, but in a very rare cases. So it's a very complex application, and that functionality or that connector not available in a MuleSoft. But based on your requirement and your application basis, you have to connect to that or you want to use that functionality, then you can go for these scripting languages. So as I mentioned, Ruby, Python, JavaScript, shell script. So that can be written here, and that functionality or that class or that method can be called from here. Okay. And what is this SRC main resources? So if you are designing your API, RAML or WSDL, that can be landed up here. So we have to design that in a Anypoint platform. So if you are using a RAML or WSDL, that can be designed in a Anypoint platform. Okay, and you have to import that from uh, Anypoint platform to Anypoint Studio. That you can be seen here. Okay, and this test resources, when you are using a immunity testing, we are going to use this, and this is not widely used. And you can also see here the connectors that we are using, or the versions and the server version that can be seen here, and the pom.xml. So what is this pom.xml and why we are getting it? So the group id, artifact id, version, and packaging. So this is a very important for your pom.xml. So if you are using this my company, so the based on the account or based on the company, you are going to give your, let's say, com dot, there is a, you are working for ABC, so that can come here. Then after the business group, then the application name, then the version, then the runtime manager requires this group id and the content of it. So it's based on the organization or based on the client that you are going to give here. Okay, and artifact id and the name. So you can see these two are same, that is coming up with the application name. Okay, test August AUG. Okay, and this entire thing going to come as a deployment name, means the application name that you are going to deploy in a runtime manager, that come along with this all artifacts. Clear?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So in this format.xml, you are going to have your dependencies and properties. So this, our entire Mulesoft is a Maven based. Okay. So we are drag and drop only a listener. Okay. So you can see here, if you search for a HTTP listener, okay, simply I'm typing HTTP. So you can see in the background, so HTTP connector. So HTTP connector configuration is got uh, dependencies got downloaded once you drag and drop the connector, and you can see the version. Okay, so this particular dependency going to import from a Maven. So you can see Maven plugin, like Mule plugin.
When we create a Mule project, this form.xml will be automatically created, or we need to add the dependencies manually.
No, it will come automatically. So you can see,
Okay.
right, I didn't do anything. So
Yeah.
simply, if I delete this, okay, so I have to save this. Let me refresh. So it should be removed actually. So this dependency will not be there if the connector is not there in your Mule palette.
Okay.
Okay. So once we created the application, so along with this your application, you are going to get this all folder structure and this form.xml. So in this form.xml, you are going to have your all dependencies and the properties. So the dependencies going to get downloaded from Maven.
Okay.
Okay. And you can deploy this application locally, and you can test from any other testing tools, like so here you also required the Postman. So
Postman.
Raju, I think you know what is Postman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we need a Postman as well to test our API. Okay. So Postman is nothing but a testing tool to test APIs. So it may be any method, get, post, put, update, whatever, patch. So you are going to test that with a postman by giving input request. If it is a post method, you are going to give input body, and if it is get method, you are going to check that with a query parameters or a URI parameters. So this is also a open source. You can get it from Google. Okay. So once we deployed our application locally here, so it will show you here as a deployed in a console. Then you can hit any of the testing tools. So there are in the market we can available as SOAP UI, Ready API. So there are other tools as well to test our API. But best user friendly is a Postman. So you can see in my desktop I have it. So you can see this is a Postman. Okay. So using this Postman, you can hit our request or you can test our application locally. Okay. So let it open. Yeah. So before it get open, I'll tell you the Anypoint Studio, Anypoint Platform. It's getting loaded. Yeah. Anypoint. So since I have already access for it, so just I am going with the login. So while you're creating your while sign up, so you have to go with the sign up, give all your details, and get that access. My internet is too bad today. So you can see this window. I'm not going with a domain. So if you're working in an organization, like if you purchase your license from Mulesoft, you can go with this organization domain access, but we have the individual one. Okay, I'm using this, my own credentials.